starts coming all the time. Are you not into it, Pop?
What's that going to do? Record this conversation?
Heavenly days. Let's shut it.
That's when I put the stickers in the man birds in the chair, you know, man birds like teaching school. And I was in high school, he made me sit under the desk just the last Thursday I had, you know, that's a nice Tuesday. And he had them old gray socks on and no high top shoes on his tail down over the top. And he had me under there and I thought, he's standing there, he was signing to the left, to the left day. And I looked in all those breakfast, and I knew he was there, and he pulled out about a dozen. So when he went on back around the room, decided to take his son, and I laid him up in the chair. And when he come back up there, he sat down real hard, he jumped up, and, you know, Lydia was set her down at the back end. He went over there and just shaking Lydia. Well, she wasn't nowhere near Lydia, didn't know what in the world he was doing. And I about to die under that.
Well, Emma get us tickled in school, and then the teacher get on to us, and Emma could be just as straight faced as she could be.
Well,
And me and Lola, she's Stephanie over and over.
Me on the back when it was doing like I just do this way, Lola, and she just stayed right out.
No, she didn't sit in the front seat.
That thing you got in trouble.
I didn't think you was in trouble.
Heck, you sat in the corner. Yeah.
She was doing. Thank you, Calvin. Emma Taylor went up, Cal.
Not me.
Yes, he did.
That wasn't me. He got you guys and pulled your ears, and it didn't bother me. And I was
Well,
sitting there
anyway, when are y'all gonna start this?
This doing?
We're just rolling right now. We just keep on talking.
Are the
and telling-
dogs coming?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they said they'd come.
And
Laurie would be here probably a little bit.
Who
She had to
else
go to
will?
Temple today, and said she'd try to be here.
We're gonna have everybody tell, we're just kind of waiting.
Oh, let's don't tell that on the. You're not putting
Oh,
that
I
on
know.
tape.
This is just for our example.
What dogs?
Byron. His wife.
We wanted Onai Heck to come, and Onai, you know, is raised over here, but she's sick with rheumatism. She said it's so bad. And
Well, we might ought to start doing
He's
it. Just
out
go ahead
and
start
stuff
telling
around,
stories
but,
right now and just let everybody pass it around.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
she said he is out mowing the yard today, you know, and he had those ribs cracked and hadn't been out doing anything. And then he cut himself, and she's in there doctoring. He just got through. She said, I don't know what I'm going to do with that man, because he's just won't listen to me. But said she was sick with, I imagine it's arthritis. She said rheumatism. Said she's been really sick with Jeanette, but you're awful quiet.
Let's see, were all of you raised here in Kelsey, or was you raised in Gilmer? Were you all raised out here in Kelsey?
We're all this is much here is all right down here in Kelsey, as far as I know.
Well, she was born. Emma was born here. Judy.
Were you born here, Lola? No, you wasn't.
You was born here.
Ah, yeah.
Emma and Judy. Virgil.
Jeanette was born here.
I was born in
Jeanette
Tennessee.
was born here.
You were born in Tennessee,
Oh,
So
you were.
there are three that was born here.
and Heber was born in Tennessee. Is that what you said? That is born in Oklahoma. And then we were in JC, Oklahoma too. You were born in Oklahoma? That's right, I remember him telling me, a little skit that we're doing.
How many years have you been you know, inhabitant of Kelsey, Carl? I
Then
mean,
what?
here.
Well, they come back here when I was 2 years old. See, they was here, and he tried to make a crop, and then they went back to Oklahoma, and I was born up there, and he made 2 crops. Then they come back. He just went over and left the place. Said that bottom overflowed 19 times in 1905. That's more than we got this year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There's no road at all.
Yeah,
Yeah, they got out one.
he didn't make nothing. No, I don't think.
What about in Oklahoma, were you there?
little old place called Willis, not more far from ours.
Oh, I think you see that little sign down there now, you go by that way, Willie. It sounds familiar.
When did y'all come here, Virgil? What year? 1912. Yeah. Heber? How long have you lived in Kelsey? How many years?
We come to Kelsey in 1907, December 1907. And I was 2 years old in February 19.
We came
Following
when I was about a year old, probably I was born 1906.
A lot of families came from Tennessee and
we come from Tennessee here.
My folks came from Mississippi.
Where I was born.
Bryant, Mississippi.
Well, you've been here, well, you can say you've been here a long time.
That's right.
I've been here nearly as long as Carl has.
Yeah.
Few months different.
I remember one time we had a ball at the conference, had the different ones stand up in the different southern states, and there was more from Mississippi there than any other state.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
I think it was probably-
J.C. came from Oklahoma. When was that, Jay? He was born in Indian Territory.
so was Byron, didn't he?
Born where?
Over there.
In Indian Territory.
Was you born there at Van Off?
See, it wasn't a state when we were.
No, that's when Jake was born at well.
That's just a little ways out of
It
Ada.
wasn't a state.
We used to go out there for a lot.
Uh-huh. Well, Paul came here in 1909, and we came here as a result of persecution to the Mormons in Arkansas. Two missionaries came and converted my grandfather Alt, and one of the missionaries was Samuel O'Daniel. Built a church for the members there, and one time after church one night the non-Mormons burned it down, and so then to move that there was a little colony called Kelsey, and it was for the people of the Mormons to, congregate and for safety and to. But he told Paul was a finished carpenter, and told him that he could find work in Idaho. And so Paul took us to Idaho, Blackfoot, Idaho. And we stayed there. I was a baby. And we stayed there. What are you doing?
What I want to use your stories for, if you all don't mind.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing.
You want me to go on now? Oh, I see. Well, anyway, the winters were so severe in Idaho that Paul had pneumonia the first winter, twice. I think to come back south. And so that's the reason we came to Kelsey. And we came on we stayed all night with a Mrs. King. And then we came on down to Kelsey. And so, of course, we stayed with the family. Goodson was their name. And then we went over to another place and lived there for a while. And then we moved right into the center of Kelsey in a frame house. And that was in 1909. And then Paul built a store, a general store, and he's over here. And in 1910, the train came through. And so Paul had the post office in his store, and he was the postmaster. And the depot was built down from the store. And Paul had a large store, and he sold everything from shoes, ladies' hats, cloth, barrels of beans, sugar, rice, and also tools for farming. And he did well with the store because later in years, there were several stores here, but none of them held up. They all went. And so they, oh, but anyway, I've lived here most all my life except going off to school, and JC had work at Freeport, and we've lived here many, many years. And I see they built it in 1911, and the railroad. Oh, yeah. I know, but well, they had built the bricks. Yes.
That's when they had the first school.
Well, it's down in history, it's 1911. But anyway, and yeah, well, it doesn't matter really. And so this school was a very good school, wasn't it, Carl? A very good school. And you know, one year when I was in high school, our school participated in the county meet at Gilmer. And we rated number 2 in the county, the school. And I won second in declamation, and we won first in singing. My brother John won first in essay writing and spelling, and JC won first in some singing, group singing, and also in the races. But anyway, the schools, what made them so outstanding was part of them were missionaries, and they were sent here by the church from out west. President Binion said they were the cream of the crop, and they also hired several teachers, local teachers. And one year I taught school there, and JC taught school 3 years, and several here. And Cornelia Jones were teachers, and Susie. And so the schools were very outstanding.
Let me tell you something, Lola.
Oh, no, sure.
Caleb Fault and Josh built that whole store together. Josh didn't do all that by himself, and then he bought Caleb Fault out, and Caleb Fault went to Arizona. And then Brother Alt, Josh Alt, was run the store then the rest of the time by himself.
What year was that?
He had a good
Well,
store there.
whatever year they built it, they first had a little old store. It was facing west. And then they built the big store, and he bought out Caleb Alt, that is his brother. They lived right side by side over there. Caleb Alt lived right next over there where Myrtle Wallers used to live. And he left here and went to Arizona.
The first school was built over there.
Well, it was over there where the Dixons lived.
Yeah.
Of course, that was before this school up here on the hill.
I don't remember that school. Well, I don't think
What about the church?
Well, the church and the schoolhouse is all one building where Ben and Laurie used to live, you know.
Well,
Then when did they build the church?
1909.
1909.
I was 2 years old when they built that church.
What year did you come here in Bryant?
Well, Papa and Mama come here in 1904, and then they left the fall of 1905 and stayed gone 2 years and then come back.
And where'd they go to?
Oklahoma.
That's where he was.
And that's where you were born.
Uh-huh. It was still Indian territory then, you know, just like JC said.
And you've lived here how many years now? That makes
Too long.
Yeah, that's right.
He wasn't born here.
no 78 years. He's 80 years old.
Oh, he's not 80. He'll be 80 this fall.
Won't be long if I live.
Oh, gosh, yes. You got to bring me. I haven't got anything to say. I haven't.
How long have you lived here, Julie?
All my life, 78 years.
Where'd your family come from?
They came from Mississippi.
Mississippi. And what year was that?
Oh, they come here in about 1903, I believe it was. somewhere
What did
along.
your family do for a living? Were they farmers?
They were farmers.
Everybody was. Had to be. Except
And
Did we have a blacksmith here?
there used to be blacksmiths, gins, and everything else all over this
depot,
place.
post office.
Gosh, yes.
Yeah, Carl, what was
Okay.
your father's name and
Let them
what
tell
year?
why their family.
Robert Emmons Bryant, R.E. Bryant. They called him Bob.
When they joined church.
And was your family members of the church when they came here?
Yeah.
How did they find the church?
Well, it's a long story.
That's what we're here for.
Back in Tennessee, where they come from, they had missionaries back there, and there was 2 elders. Mob killed them, and they buried them. And Grandpa Church, that is Mama's daddy, they took some of his old clothes and an old hat, and they went there, and the elders put them clothes on, and they went there at night and dug them up and shipped them back to Utah.
Missionaries they killed.
The 2
That-
missionaries that they did kill.
Uh,
The missionaries they killed, they recovered their bodies.
yeah, that's right.
Was there a lot of persecution in the
There
area?
was then, them days, yeah.
This was kind of a place of refuge then.
Well, they thought the mob was going to come to Kelsey a time or two, but they didn't make
They
it.
were thwarted, wasn't they?
What year was that they thought the mobs might come to Kelsey?
I don't know. Lola might remember. They said there come a big rain that night, and the creek got up, and they couldn't get across.
Well, something sure stopped them because they didn't get here. I know Pop and all of them had guns ready and everything.
Where was the mob coming from? From Gilmer? Or
No, they were back over in this way.
And I think.
what are they, a religious group that was against us? Or
Individual. More or less individual.
well, it seems that the Kelsey community really stuck out and shined all over. I imagine some of that was part of the persecution, was probably just the idea that it was such a good community.
Well, they just didn't want the Mormons in here.
Berkshire County was built right up here on that schoolhouse hill.
Yeah, I'm watching. Listening to see where
And quick as Kelsey, or the church built that gymnasium, then Gilmer built one.
is that right?
That's absolutely right. Them fellas can tell you that. See, them 2 right there and me and 2 or 3 more used to play ball together,
Byron.
and we went all over places.
And Carl Dodson and Lola.
Bill Heber. What'd you say?
Said you hadn't got
You were
through.
talking, Brother Brian, about the grocery store. There's a tin building across the street now. Is that where part of
That is his warehouse.
That was the warehouse.
That's where he'd stores feed and lots of things, plows and stuff,
Well, we used to live out of that store.
Is that
Oh,
the
he-
same old building?
She's
that
talking about the warehouse down there
was the same
now.
old building
Well, I
down there
know,
that
but I
was
said
originally there?
the store that they all had, we lived out of it. Everybody around here.
But after he bought out Caliphote, well, he built that big store himself. Caliphote went to Arizona, a little old place out of Mesa named Nephi or Lehi or something. Yeah. And he had Caliphote had a little store there. I've been there.
And that was Lola's uncle?
Uh-huh. Her daddy's
Brothers came
her
together.
daddy's brother. Well, her grandpa, he lived right down there, right the other side of it. And their daughter,
The houses was in a row
It-
down there.
yeah,
Well, growing up in the Kelsey community, you must have had a lot of fun as a little kid.
fun. Yeah, I grubbed sprouts and worked like,
You mean you didn't watch television back then?
not hardly.
What did you do for recreation?
I don't know.
Meanness. I've heard some pretty wild stories, and I just thought maybe you were part of some of those stories.
I ain't gonna tell you the wildest ones.
No, it was there's else on the bottom.
Well, Sister Bryant, what about you? When did your family come here?
Well, about 1903 is best I can remember now. Somewhere in the first part of the century, all right. And,
Who were your mom and dad?
well, my mother was an Irwin before she married my daddy, but my daddy was Carl Hamberlin. Everybody knew him as Carl. He was V.C. Hamberlin, but everybody knew him as Carl Hamberlin. And they moved to Milam County from Mississippi first, and then they came on up here to Minnesota.
Just tell it like it was.
Well,
What year did you come here?
I was born here. Missionaries converted them. First, and then they moved on.
Okay, this is Brother Byron Wade now. Brother Wade, when did your family come here? I got to hold it because there's a short in it.
1916, I think. That was Jasper C. Sr.
1916. Where did he come from?
He came from, he came from Bonos, Oklahoma, and went to Chickasha, Oklahoma, and he went to California, taking his family, and then he came back to Nevada, Oklahoma, and that's where he was living when we came to Kelsey. Came down this little railroad out here, best I can remember.
Do you remember coming into town, what you thought of and what you felt?
Well, up where we lived on the bottom, we raised wheat up there, and it was a prairie. We didn't have no trees much, and when we came down this little railroad with all these trees, I didn't know what it was getting into. Thinking about bears and lions, but it was pretty. It was a pretty drive, and we came down. We got off the depot down here by the oil store. Dad had bought 2 houses up here from Saunders, and we lived in 2 houses for quite a long while, and part of us lived in one, part in the other, and finally Dad tore the one down and built one out of the 2. And then from there on, I guess there was a hall over here too, right below the house, between the old store and our house. And I don't know when that hall was built. Does any of you know? They built another hall up here. Some of them telling me when that was built, but when this was built over here, I don't know. But it was there several years because J.C. and Carl and Grandma and myself and Virgil played some, and all my elders. We played basketball. That was the first Carl Dotson and Bill Hipper. And that was the first basketball that was played inside in Upshur County. there wasn't no gyms in Upshur County when that was built, to my knowledge. We was playing on the gravel up there at school when they built that, and that was rough going on that gravel. But we had a lot of fun. We won a lot of ball games, had one of the best teams in East Texas. Another thing we had was a band here, the biggest band in East Texas at that time, and 50-piece band. And I think Carl played in it, did you? JC played in it. I played in it. And Heber played in it. Did you play in it, Virgil? Virgil played in it. And I think that there was a fellow who started the band before Christians come here. Does anybody remember his name? Early Young. He started the band, and then N.W. Christian came. Then L.A. Christensen came, and they taught school and developed the community greatly, I'd say, because like when Lola said we was having speech and all that, they were real artists in giving speeches, and we learned a lot of that from them, and we did win a lot of prizes. I won a prize over there in Engemann, public speaking. We played a lot of ball. We like one point going to the state over there in the ball game. And there was a lot of, well, we entered in about everything. I was in the quartet that Lola was telling about it. JC won a blue ribbon. I don't remember who else singing that, probably Virgil.
Carl Dotson won a
Carl Dotson, JC, and me, and I don't know who the other one was, but did you? Yeah. We won a blue ribbon on that, so then we had a lot of fun in school. JC and I played all over the East Texas. With some more of Heber. He was one of them, played with us. And Lil Case was one that played with us. I don't know who else played. Ben played a little with us, Ben Dixon. But we played for 3 or 4 dances a week there for a long time all over East Texas. And we probably had one of the best bands in East Texas at that time. And the Warren Brothers had a band, but beside their band, I'm sure that we rated number 1 at that time playing. But we had a lot of fun together. Virgil and I used to go up and down these hills singing, and Jason and Heber and Lil Case playing instruments. And we'd get on a cold night and go up to a house about 10 o'clock and start singing, or 11 o'clock, start singing. We did that a lot. People would get up and ask us in, give us cake and whatever we had, and we'd have a lot of fun that way.
We'd always make it on Saturday night.
Yeah.
That's when they bake the cakes for Sunday.
Get ready for church on Sunday. All in all, we had a lot of fun while I was here. I only lived here for 13 years, and then I moved away, and I come back here in, 54 years later, I came back, and we bought our home over there at Gilmer. Kept this little place here all the time. And Bill and Sue's living out here on it now. We built a little house up here on the northeast corner when we was first married. And it's moved away now, but I built 2 houses on this little place here. Let JC tell some. He's got a lot to tell.
Well, as Byron says, we came from Oklahoma down here. We stayed all night in Williamsboro. We came down on the train the next morning, and we got off down there at the store. And I remember J.S. Alden, big letters on the store. At that time, of course, I didn't think about him eventually being my daddy-in-law. But you never know, and so we got off the train and we walked up this hill over there where I live now, and I'll never forget. My daddy said, "Kids, people here in Kelsey call each other brothers and sisters." I says, "Why do they do that?" And they said, "Well, they belong to the same church." So I've heard a whole lot of brothers and sisters from that day to this. That's been a long, long time ago.
I was interested in the school here. I started with the 4th grade and went on through and graduated, and then I taken a course, on the subjects, and I got to be at. They let me got a certificate of teaching school, and I taught 2 years there right after we were married. That's the first 2 years after we were married, and so Kelsey, as someone said, it had a combination school there. I guess if there wasn't anything like it in the state, part missionaries and part local. The church sent the missionaries there. They was free, but the state paid the local members for their teaching. That's something that you wouldn't find very often, but it happened here in Kelsey. And so the Kelsey was well represented. There's about 50 schools in Upshur County when I was going to school, and I represented Kelsey there in the races, 100-yard dash, 50-yard dash, and the mile relay, and the broad jump. And someone said also, so in the music. But we had some wonderful teachers there.
How large Kelsey was and the biggest community.
Kelsey.
About the guard, you were chosen.
Well, I was chosen as one of the guards of the county. They had the first team after, from all of them. But anyway, we were well represented. Kelsey was represented very well there in those county meets.
See, what did you mean by the first guard? What was the guard?
Well, there's 2 guards, and they selected the best guard and the best fire. Okay. When I was a young boy, as somebody Byron had saying there, I learned to play the fiddle, the violin. It was quite an undertaking to play. It's pretty hard to play the violin. But I did. I learned it. And I learned it when I was very young. And the first tune I ever learned is down by the old mill stream. I guess I don't know how many 100 times, I tried that before I ever learned it. No telling. I'd play a tune and play a word, and then I'd back up, and then, but I finally got to where I could play it, and then the others come easier. And we did play there, as some of them said, for the dances for a long time, and I felt like indirectly I had a hand in keeping the church going financially here in Kelsey all those years, because we didn't know what a budget was when it was here at Kelsey. That budget visits coming after we went to Gilmer. So by paying for those dances, they would take the proceeds for those dances and help keep the church going. So I kind of feel like by playing the violin for those dances all those years, indirectly I did help keep up the church. I feel good about it. The school was wonderful to go to, and it was wonderful to be around. We had, as someone says, President Elder Young come down here and organized first band in Upshur County, believe it or not. And I played B-flat tenor saxophone in that band. And I'll never forget, I lived up here on the old Rosewood Road. And Sam Skills come out there one day. I was fooling around the house there. And he said, "Mr. Wade, we're trying to get some electricity out in the country." And I said, "That sounds like a bigger to me, getting electricity out here in the country." I said, "Mr. Skills, let me study about it a day or two." He said, "There's 8 or 9 dealers out there," and said, "If those dealers all sign up, that'll give the government, that'll give us a little hold there to argue about the government. We ought to have some electricity around." So all the dealers signed up, and believe it or not, the first RE line that's ever made in this county come out here to Kelsey. That's been many years ago. There's a lot of people that don't, them people over there at the REA don't realize the beginning of that REA. So Dad had a dream that the electricity would come here about 10 or 12 years before it ever came here. He told me one day, he says, Byron, there'll be an electric line come right down this road out here. And he says, I might not ever see it. And then again I might, but he says there'll be one come here. So we got electricity. And I, as all of you know, I got in the dairy business and stayed in it about 40 years. And that's been most of my life, the dairy life. And I've been very interested in the church here in Kelsey all these years. I was a deacon right after we came here. And I served 7 years as counselor to Johnny Futel in the branch presidency. And then eventually I was put in as branch president for 3 years here in Kelsey. So Kelsey it's been my home, as all of you know, and I've been in the middle of most of it while it's happening. So the Diamond Jubilee, here a few years ago, we celebrated 75 years of Mormonism. I was chairman of that committee. We had a wonderful time over there at Gilmer. We had catered barbecue, and we had all the branch people come from all over more or less all over the United States come there, the branch presidents and bishops, and we all talked for a few minutes, and I got ribbons to pin on all of them. And so Lola and I, we were on the committee to get this paved road through Kelsey. We'd talked to Mr. Engemann quite a bit about it, and Farm to Market Road through Kelsey. I don't know what influence we had, may not had any, but we may have had quite a bit, I don't know. Anyway, we talked to him several times, and he was very friendly with us. And we do have the good road through Kelsey. So Kelsey, the stores and the businesses are all gone. Lola and I hate to see the church leave. Because it's been part of our lives for many years. We'd heard many sermons up there. Wonderful sermons. I'll never forget all those hundreds of sermons that I went to church and heard. Old Brother Elliott, he'd stand there with his eyes closed when he talked. And W.R. Henderson, he is a pretty good talker, but he'd get up there and shut his eyes and wait a while before he'd ever start. And you'd wonder if he's going to ever start, but he'd finally start and he'd make a pretty good talk. Old Brother Grantham, I'll never forget him. He said, the lamb and the lion shall lie down together. So Kelsey's been, we've been part of Kelsey, and Kelsey's been part of us. We've had good neighbors all these years, good people to live with and around, and we appreciated it. And it's been a wonderful place to live. I'm glad my daddy came down here because with the churches here, and we've been able to function in the church and work in the church all of our lives. And I don't know, whenever it's like you say, the business is gone, but a lot of people still here, and there's still a lot of pride here in Kelsey among these people. They got a good heritage. There are a lot of people right here in this community. They have a good heritage. They have something to be proud of. It's been a long life. I've been here come here when I was 11 and now 80, so that's been a long time. And I've told you a few of the things that happened. We used to have those big picnics up there on the 24th of July. And some of them over here on this hill, they called this place here, right here was part of the picnic grounds, but mostly they eventually was wound up over there at the church. There's where they had the big picnics, and I'd run the races over there, and I'd earn me 50 cents, to get my ice cream with. And so I've had a good time here all these years. But they'd have their big long tables there, and they'd have all kinds of stuff to eat. And they'd have the ice cream in those big 10 gallons. It was ice cream, it wasn't imitation them days. And they'd have the soda water in those big tubs, and they'd have ice on it. It would, lemonade and all those things go. We had wonderful times, and they played ball after. They'd have the picnics up there, and then they'd come over here at night, and we'd have a big dance after that. I remember very well those dances. It's been long ago, but I played there, sat there and played there and seen the people walk, dance around hundreds and hundreds of times. And it wasn't just wasn't the young class that come, it wasn't the old class that come. Everybody come, young, old, middle age, and even the young babies, they'd put them up on the stage, and put them to sleep. A lot of them was laying around up there on pallets. And it was just a community to do, and it was a wonderful, wonderful occasion, He was wondering what we did for our time. That was part of it, going to dances and going to church and to the mutual. We had mutual, plenty of it. And singing the Engemann chorus, and doing all kinds of things in the mutual at church. So we had plenty of entertainment. I'll never forget, though. It wasn't all rosy. We had kind of the rusty dozen here. They were now vigilantes, We kind of had a few of them, But it wasn't bad. I remember one. Well, I won't say this, so I don't believe I need to say that. We had a good time here in Kelsey, and I guess that's about all I need to say. Maybe somebody else tell something.
Okay.
I think JC told it all. I don't think there's anything left for me to tell.
Well, when did your family move to Kelsey? What year was that?
1907.
1907.
December 1907.
And where'd they come from?
Tennessee.
What was your dad and mom's name?
My dad's name was William H. Jones, and my mother's name was Martha Jones.
How many in the family did they have?
Huh?
How many children did they have?
4 boys and 2 girls.
And they all grew up in the Kelsey area?
I all grew up here.
Are they all still living around Kelsey now?
Oh, no, I'm the only one here.
They're all just scattered all over, or are you
Well,
the youngest?
The 2 girls are dead, and one of the boys is dead. The two boys living in Salt Lake, and I live here. That's all that's living.
But they all started out in Kelsey?
All started out in Kelsey. All made school teachers but me. I didn't make no school teacher. So I had another brother that didn't make a school teacher.
Well, you're a mechanic, Heber.
Huh?
Tell me about your mechanic. You're a mechanic.
I made a mechanic, yeah. I've been a mechanic all my life. Still been, I guess, trying to take me shingles. They just got me down. I just can't do nothing.
Played the bass fiddle.
I've had them there for 3 years now.
Did you teach in the old Kelsey school? Is that where you?
I didn't teach, period.
Oh, you did, but your brothers and sisters.
My brothers and sisters. I had 2 sisters taught up here at this red building, And I don't think Andrew ever taught there. He went to Utah when he got to where he was a teacher. He went to Utah and went teaching out there. And because it wasn't hard on Mormons to teach schools around here. If you were a Mormon, they wouldn't let you in the school. You had to teach here or else go somewhere else. So they went to Utah to be teachers there. And Engemann still teaching. I got one brother still teaching there at American Fork.
So there was still a lot of persecution in the area, even when you were growing up.
Oh, yeah. I was living here when that mob car was talking about coming across over here from Natch over everywhere. I remember that night just as well as last night.
Did anybody see the mob? Or
They never did make it. Like Carl said, it rained them out. You got the creek up and they couldn't cross. So
What year was it?
I don't remember what year it was.
rumor was out, one of the settler sheriff was in town in Gilbert. He came home and he had heard there that the mob was coming that night. You know the Bryant stuff.
They can bring coal and set up houses and burn us out.
Is that right? Well, did your family prepare for?
I don't think so. If they did, I don't remember it. Didn't have nothing to prepare.
You said you were a mechanic. Did you start mechanicking right here in Kelsey?
Right here in Kelsey, right over there, right on the corner where I'm living now.
Called Shade Tree Motor Company.
Shay's, her daddy named it Shade Tree Garage is what he named it. The motor company or something. Her daddy named it that.
You really named it that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I went